Hello, this is Christian Okoye, former Kansas City Chiefs. You are listening to Grilling Truth.
Welcome to the inaugural episode of The Truth About Fantasy Football from Grilling Truth, brought to you by Gridiron Mo, a new interactive football app that lets you call what you think is going to happen during a live NFL game and compare what happens across the country. Go to www.gridironmo.com for more information on that. I am your host for the Fantasy Football Show, Matt Andruscavage, and I'd like to introduce my co-host, Oz Davis. How are you tonight, Oz?
I'm okay. Yes, I am Oz Davis, and I am joining you on this podcast. I'm very happy to be here. This is great. I can't believe we're talking about fantasy football this early. This is fantastic. It's not Canadian,
normally,
right?
What was that?
We're talking NFL football, right? We're not talking
That's
Canadian
right.
football, right? We're talking NFL.
No. We'll be doing fantasy football for the NFL.
Okay.
Maybe someday we'll do fantasy football for the CFL, but for now we're just going to do the NFL. We're basically doing a little bit of an early preview for your drafts, and talking about some of the rookies. But what we want to do tonight is kind of go over a little bit about what we're going to be doing as the drafts get closer, and as you're going to be needing advice on draft strategies, sleeper picks, and whatnot. We want to be a resource that you can go to get some good advice for your drafts. So, but without further ado, first, Oz, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I've been in my name's Oz Davis. I've been in the writing game for far too long to mention, probably. I usually try and describe the bigger picture of my life as such. The first third of my life was my childhood in New Hampshire, in the shadow of the then losing Red Sox and New England Patriots, I might point out. The second third of my life I mostly spent in university and the time thereafter in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I began writing about sports because I was writing for a hip alternative weekly at which everybody cared about music and food and movies and TV, and nobody gave a damn about sports. So I was by default the sports guy, and took much pride in being the Albuquerque sports guy, before the Boston sports guy, too, I might point out. And then finally, the third of my life, I would say, I've been living in Budapest, Hungary for better part of 10 years. I did a nice 10-year run there. Over there, I was mostly immersed in European basketball. And but due to the miracles of the internet, which I slowly watched evolve, I've even been writing about NFL football that whole time. For the fourth third of my life, I've recently come out here to Orange County, lovely Orange County, California. Let's say neighboring home market to the Los Angeles Rams 2.0.
That's right. The Rams have moved from St. Louis to L.A., and that was the place that I would go every year to go see my Niners, the divisional game in St. Louis, just a few hours from my house. So I'm definitely disappointed that they're gone now, but it's probably good for the league, and it sounds like you're going to be attending some Rams games.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, especially, I'm not even 100% sure what we're going to do here for the next, what is this, 2 to 3 years, while Stan Kroenke's Pleasure Dome is being erected in the old Hollywood Park location. Because, that's a $1 billion project. That's going to take a couple more years. So I'm not even sure where we are. I know that next year, for example, we're playing in China. I believe that this year we're playing in London. I believe the Rams are one of the London games. So this is a way to get out of playing in Los Angeles at least for one week a season these next 2 years. But 2-3 years from now, I'm hoping to be a season ticket holder at that point.
Excellent. Well, with this being the first of our fantasy football shows, we want to go through a little bit of a rundown of what we're going to be offering on our show over the coming months. I know that a lot of people's drafts, whether it be a non-PPR league, a PPR league, a Dynasty League, that sort of thing. I know most of those drafts are going to be occurring sometime in late July or going into August. Probably a lot of them are going to be in August. Some of them go all the way up to September. But I know that most of them be in August, and so we want to be able to, especially in July, really be running down draft strategies and answering questions through Twitter and social media and that sort of thing. So be sure to be looking out for things on the Grueling Truths homepage, on the Twitter feed, and the Facebook page. And any way that you want to send in your questions, we'll be happy to go through it all. So we want to offer draft strategies, sleepers, also trade evaluations, lineup advice. We want to give you a matchup of the week, and definitely want to answer any questions that the listeners might have.
And we want to give you the truth about fantasy football.
That's right. That's what the show is called, The Truth About Fantasy Football. And there is a lot of truth.
What are we doing this far out? What can we talk about? Should we talk about the poor Buffalo Bills just to get things rolling?
Oh, man. The Buffalo Bills. What news today? So middle of the day, I get a notification on my phone, and I always get nervous when I see those kind of notifications because I'm just waiting for something to happen to my team, like last year, the year before, just constant in the news. And so I open it up, and lo and behold, it says Sammy Watkins broke his foot. Mm-hmm. So I was partially relieved that it had nothing to do with my team, but on the other hand, that's a bummer. You don't want to see your star receiver ever go out with an injury, and broken foot. That's probably gonna be at least 4 to 6 weeks, probably longer.
Well, yeah. Okay, so. This news only came. I mean, okay. So one of the things we have to remember about this is, this is a small bone in the foot, and the official press release from the team emphasized this many times, as to placate the fans a little bit. This isn't good news, and we know that this isn't good news because they revealed this about 3 weeks after it happened. Okay, the only reason why some people think that the Bills organization released this news today is because they had to report the other injury to Shaq Lawson. Now, there's not even a timetable on his injury. We know that the first-round draft pick will be getting shoulder surgery, that is to say. And Sammy Watkins, according to the NFL.com, the league website, a training camp return is, quote, optimistic. So we're certainly removing Sammy Watkins from that first third of the draft table, I believe, in most fantasy leagues. It'll probably still be worth a look, but this won't be the same player for, 4, 5, 6 weeks of the regular season?
Yeah, that's possible. It all depends on his healing, obviously, and it's hard to say how much time he's going to get, how many reps he's going to actually see in preseason. He probably wouldn't have seen that many anyways, but now with a foot injury like this, they're probably going to err on the side of caution and just, maybe play him for one series if he's able to go, and then just kind of see what happens in the regular season. He's probably going to see limited action.
Yeah, and these things always worry me. Maybe it's just my basketball roots, but these things always worry me. Losing that half a step never comes back. With stuff like
right.
This.
That's tough.
And so you hate to see the dark side of the spectrum, but it's tough to see the positive end of the spectrum. I can only imagine how Buffalo fans must be feeling with this.
Well, definitely. I mean, and fantasy fans right now, people are looking at, where would Sammy Watkins go? Typically, I'm thinking, probably late second. Between late second and early fourth, somewhere in there, you might be able to snag him now in the fifth. Mm-hmm. So, for fantasy fans, depending on what you've already got for your lineup, you might be able to, some owners are probably going to shy away from Sammy Watkins a little bit. You might be able to steal him a little bit later in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can afford to wait, yeah. This is a nice late early. How can we call that? Late early round pickup. I'd say about five or six, round 5 or 6 if he's still out there.
Yeah, I would think.
I mean, I don't know how big the league is in question, but let's say 10-team league. I think 5th round. Yeah, that's a good pickup. But I mean, you won't be getting much production out of him. You know, this is going to be a Brady. This is going to be a Brady pickup, right? You know, or you suspect he'll probably produce later, but he's not there. He's not there the first quarter of the season. So
yeah, probably. He's probably not going to give you, even if he plays, which he probably will. He's probably not pulling 10 catches in for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns a game. You might only see that a couple of times this year now, depending on how he recovers.
Yeah, and Tyrod Taylor or no, this is not a high stat offense
right
over there in Buffalo already. So this does not bode well for Mr. Watkins' future this season. And also, Shaq Lawson. Shaq Lawson was looking like a viable rookie pickup. And, same deal. He's going to lose all this time. So not so viable anymore.
Right. Well, why don't we get into some of the other rookies that we think might have an impact? That's one of the focuses we want to do in the inaugural show, since we're still in mid-May, and but it is worth talking about the rookies that were picked up in this draft just a few weeks ago.
Sure.
Both of us feel that there are definitely some rookies that could impact your team, and sometimes rookies get lost in the shuffle because we're so focused, we're so used to picking certain players, and sometimes rookies really get lost in the shuffle, but a lot of times rookies can definitely impact your team.
Yeah, we're talking fantasy advice as one of the goals of the program, and I think there's 2 pieces of advice that come into play here. One is, on one hand, you can't be dogmatic. I mean, I've noticed myself doing that on certain fantasy teams where I'll keep the same guy 2-3 years, or I'll play the guy too deep into the season, and he's just not producing like he used to. It's only because I believe. I have the dogma. And it's tough for rookies to get over that hump. On the other hand, the reality is that the NFL draft is a crapshoot. We know this.
No question.
And we know that particularly wide receivers have a tough jump to the NFL from the colleges. The route trees are much more complex. I mean, already we've been hearing about this from at least one rookie this offseason. Wait, this was, I just saw the story today, the draft pick of the Washington, Josh Doxson. Even he today was just commenting on how much more complex the playbook is for a wide receiver in the NFL. And, already kind of telling media that he's finding it difficult, which is not exactly a positive sign. So
it's not really what you want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. So the judging the impact rookies is tough. And my second piece of advice is always this: don't draft rookies. But I can't be dogmatic. And, what do I know? Last year I took Amari Cooper and Melvin Gordon, one of which worked out very nicely, the other which did not.
Right.
But basically, I think what you're looking for is need, right? I mean, fantasy football is a stat game. So you're just looking for the guys who will produce numbers as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be the flashiest name in the draft. I mean, I noticed this is kind of precipitated by the column that you wrote for the GrillingTruth.net, the top 10 rookies for your fantasy team. You're going for not necessarily the biggest name. Like, for example, on your list, you don't have either of those 2 quarterbacks that were so frequently discussed in the days leading up to the draft. You don't have either of them because the chances are that in these, medium watt offenses at best, I mean, the Rams 32nd in the league last year, you're not going to get much stats. I mean, here are 2 guaranteed starters, but probably not the best fantasy pickups. I think that there are players who are not so sexy on the draft board that will have a much bigger impact. in the season. And I think it's those guys that you're looking for.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, like you said, I wrote an article